paper that's all the buzz, looking at so many different states and proving that cloth mask mandates in schools slow the spread of SARS-CoV-2. I just have a few thoughts. Number one, they surveyed thousands of places. They got 0.4% response rate. 0.4%. So you're saying some people responded? That's quite low. And that's so low that I think everything should be taken with a grain of salt. Number two, they're not looking at all infections. If you look at all infections, actually places that masked had way more infections than places that didn't. They're looking at secondary infections or infections that they attribute to being spread in school. Of course, that's not a perfect science of where people got infected. And then the kicker, here's the kicker. They use the local district policies for contact tracing. And in some places, if the kid was wearing a mask, they would not consider that person as a contact. They wouldn't even trace as a possibility. They assumed that it could not spread. So the paper is a tautology. It's going to prove what it's set out to find. That if you don't trace people who are masked, places that mask will have less spread at that moment when they're masking, because you're not going to trace that. The paper proves nothing. It's actually quite ridiculous. It's guaranteed to yield a certain conclusion. And of course, it's being widely promulgated and tweeted. It's embarrassing. I mean, everything is embarrassing about this. The paper is embarrassing. I don't think it's very credible science. The fact that it was published by Pediatrics is embarrassing. They, of course, have skin in the game. They've taken a bold stance that faces are superfluous. You know, that's the stance they've taken. And so, of course, they're going to have some vested interest in publishing this kind of propaganda, because it's not really science. And then all the people who tweet it, who are uncritically reading it, you know, of course, you know, that's one of the biggest problems this whole pandemic is the uncritical appraisal of literature and really kind of engaging in sort of tribal wars about these things. The truth is there are no good studies, and there could have been. We could have done a cluster randomized trial. We really ought to have done such a study. And the fact we didn't do it, it's not that, you know, we're letting just other people down. We're letting society down. We're letting all of us down. We're letting kids down. We don't know for sure if it has any impact. And the universal truths of medicine hold that behavioral interventions generally have modest impact. That impact dissipates with time. It gets less with time. It doesn't get stronger with time. It works worse the younger you go. These are the universal truths in biomedicine for many decades. People have forgotten all that. They have some zealotry where everyone is taking off the masks. The 80-year-olds are taking off the masks at the State of the Union address, but we want the 2-year-olds in New York City to wear the mask. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense at all. This paper, terrible paper. I wouldn't have printed it. I honestly think they should have thrown it away. So, those are my thoughts on it.